Okay, passt auf. Mit mir stimmt was nicht. Das ist das Erste, was man wissen muss.
Ich hab einen Schaden am Faden. Ich hab einen Schaden am Faden, Mann.
Ich zucke und schreie viel.
Wenn...
Dadurch sehe ich aus wie ein verdammter Freak.
Kannst du das nicht mehr sein lassen?
Anfassen, Bailey!
Tut mir leid. Aber in meinem Kopf ist es noch vermurkster. Ich kann nicht aufhören, Sachen zu verdrehen. Vor allem Wörter und Geräusche. Ich muss so lange mit ihnen spielen, bis sie sich richtig anhören. Entschuldigung.
Na gut. Lassen Sie es gut sein.
Wie ich sagte, total vermurkst.
Edward, it looks like you put a lot of heart and soul into this film. What made you get into this material?
It's sort of two main foundational things. One was just simply when I read the book, the character, the greedy actor, just goes, oh wow, that's like a 7-course meal for an actor. You know, just this character who has a condition that it's like jaw-dropping. It's funny, it's painful. He's smart, but he's a mess. He's, you know, there's so much in it that just the challenge of that alone was a powerful, like, you know, magnet on my actor brain. I think once the guy who wrote the novel and I had the impulse to take that detective character and the emotional relationship between him and the audience, but send him into an adventure that was more my own interest in certain things that happened in New York in the 50s, and kind of bigger themes than are in the book about American society in a way. A lot of it had to do with my grandfather, who was, he was an urban planner and a very progressive humanitarian who I worked for. And so, like, a lot of the values expressed in the film, especially by Willem Dafoe's character and Gugu's character, that's very much like my grandfather's voice. And I'd always wanted to find a way to dig into these complex issues, but in a weird way, I needed a character, I needed a vehicle that was inspiring and fun and a good story to take us into those sort of, those more sophisticated subjects in a way.
Frank Minner, Privatdetektiv.
Jungs?
Frank, go!
Er hat mir beigebracht, meinen Kopf zu benutzen, ihn zu einer Stärke zu machen. Er gab mir einen Platz in dieser Scheißwelt, bis ich alles vermasselt habe.
Frank!
Brooklyn, sie ist jetzt in Schwierigkeiten.
Wer?
Weiß irgendjemand, an was Frank dran war?
Da läuft irgendwas Großes und die waren nicht froh über das, was er herausgefunden hat.
Wir kriegen raus, wer das war. Und wir rächen uns.
Wenn ich dahinter komme, werden sie es bereuen, das verspreche ich dir.
It took you a long time to get this film done, and I'm always amazed about, you know, the endurance that people have to get movies done. What were some of the obstacles?
You know, it sounds like a long time. Initially, I read the book and I got the rights to it, but then I went into making Fight Club, which was like a year and a half, right? And then I went and directed my first film. And so there was a period where I was so busy, I couldn't even begin on it. Then there's this long period where I worked on writing it, because I think, as you saw, it encompasses a lot, and figuring out how to tell a story that is actually an emotional story of a hero's journey, a person rising from being a real underdog to doing something and triumphing, if you want to say. But marrying that and weaving that with an ambitious big story, it took a lot of time to get that right. And that was okay, but when I was finished it took me 5 years to sort of assemble everything, and that probably was the period in which I felt the most mental frustration or just need to persevere and keep pushing. But at the same time, in that period, you know, I made Birdman, and I had some tremendously important creative experiences that were very fulfilling. So I'm incredibly lucky, because it's not like I was sitting like doing nothing. And I always felt I'm gonna pull this off eventually, and it'll be right when we do.
Das ist sie. Das ist die Frau, die Frank beschattet hat. Ich glaube, sie hat was aufgedeckt.
Was mit den Armen in der Stadt passiert, war gestern keine Nachricht wert und wird es auch morgen nicht sein.
Wo gehen die Leute dann hin?
Die meisten verschwinden einfach.
Diese Stadt wird von Moses Randolph regiert. Wenn jemand nicht als das erkannt wird, was er wirklich ist, kann das sehr gefährlich sein.
Haben Sie die leiseste Ahnung, wie Macht funktioniert? Macht ist das Wissen darum, dass Sie tun können, was Sie wollen und dass niemand Sie davon abhalten kann.
Nein!
Diese Leute sind unsichtbar. Sie existieren gar nicht.
Wenn Sie seine Arbeit bedrohen, wird er sie vernichten.
Sie sind ganz allein.
Wenn Sie wüssten.
Du bist irgendwie in die Sache verstrickt und du bist in Gefahr.
Wir haben das gleiche Chaos im Kopf. Die Dinge verdrehen sich. Manche nennen es eine Gabe, aber ein Hirnleiden ist es trotz allem.
Weißt du noch, was ich gesagt habe?
Sie weiß es nicht. Sie weiß es nicht.
Was weiß ich nicht.
It's hard enough to direct someone else portraying someone with Tourette syndrome, but to direct yourself must be even harder. What was the most difficult part about directing yourself?
I can have conversations with myself all day. That part's fine. The more difficult thing, the thing I had the most anxiety about was what it would do to the relationship between me as an actor and other actors, because actors, filmmaking is just like this stuff. It's technical distraction all around you, and actors need each other. They use each other to create a bubble of concentration, and when you're breaking out of that to go do this other thing, you're the one disrupting the purity of that in some ways. And my solution was a cast of people who are theater trained, what I would call serious professionals, people who I knew were capable of working in that way with me without needing me to preserve too much of an artificial magic for them, you know what I mean? And I think when you look at this cast, you can see it's people. I relied on them to make it not a problem.
Quickly, my last question.
Okay.
And this movie, can we do just one?
You can do one more.
This movie is proof that you don't need $100 million to make a great film. How did you keep the budget so low? It's fantastic.
Yeah, we're proud of that. I mean, I think that a lot of people say, why don't these movies get made anymore? People have been saying they don't make these kind of movies anymore. It's hard. There's within our current sort of system, I think if this movie got made within a studio, even my friends at Warner Brothers, this would be a $60-70 million film. I mean, you look at Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a great film with a great cast and a period and all these things. It's a $95 million budget on that film, you know, and we made ours for 26. And I think that that's a function in part of, number one, my cast being willing to work for scale, which is one of the greatest compliments I've ever gotten, that all these people came together and said, we care enough about this to get it done. And so everybody worked for no money. And also we figured out ways by planning to and some of what has happened with digital, you know, technology and effects technology is in fact, it's amazing what you can do now for price points that would have been unheard of. And so we figured it out, you know, and I think it goes to show you can do these things, like you can do it. You have to do it for love and not money, and a lot of very talented people have to be willing to commit to that and care about the work enough, but you can do it.